And this is where we actually get the ability to help not only with preventing drop foot, because you have to be able to move your foot into dorsiflexion, but by nature of providing resistance, we can actually work on push off, which is very, very important for forward propulsion in walking.
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Nick Halsey with Motus Nova. I'm a licensed neurophysical therapist and neuroscientist helping brain injury survivors understand how to make functional gains after their injury. I hope this video helps you in your recovery.
Gabby,
Yes.
excellent. Gabby it is. Okay. So Gabby, tell me a little bit about who you are, where you calling from.
So I'm Gabby. I am 23 and I had my stroke about 8 years ago. I'm calling in from New York. And I do actually have some questions for you.
Lay it on me. What you got? What can I do?
So, as I said before, I had my stroke about 8 years ago, and it's been hard. It was hard the first couple of years, but now it's kind of evening out,
Okay.
and I'm trying to find different activities or exercises that I can do that both strengthen my ankle and my foot. Because so my ankle, I have a drop foot,
Okay.
and because of that, it's really hard for me to kind of walk. I have to walk with a brace. And the New York City streets aren't exactly even.
They're not conducive to assisted devices. People walking with assistance, I guess.
Exactly. So I'm trying to find different exercises to strengthen my ankle
Okay.
and my foot.
Okay. So I guess you're interested then in the Motus foot potentially based on your description. Okay. Okay. So first things first, thanks so much for being here and for giving me some insight into you and your recovery. That's always good to know kind of where someone's coming from. And with respect to the Motus foot, this is a system. It's a robotic system that is explicitly designed to help with foot and ankle function. Now we do get improvements about the whole kinematic chain, meaning we get some improvements in walking function as well, which is one of the ways we actually evaluate its efficacy or how effective the intervention is. But specifically, the Motus foot itself is designed to provide assistance into the dorsiflexion motion. That's the motion that is kind of bringing your toes to the sky. And so the way it can do this is it has a pneumatic actuator, which is a big fancy word that basically means a muscle that can contract and relax, that can help you perform that task. And all of this is designed to help you walk through a process of rehabilitation called repetitive task practice. And this is, I'm sure at this point you're, 8 years post-stroke, and you're probably an expert in terms of what you need to do to actually get that improvements. And it is really just down to identifying tasks and interventions that get you those movements and they challenge you. And this is one of those things. It can walk you through and provide variable amounts of assistance for you, conditioned on where you may need that assistance in the range of motion. And by nature of being a robotic system, it has sensors on board that can make it a bit more fun, right? What it does is it takes your movements, your kinematics and your kinetics, so your movements and your muscle forces, and translates that into a fun virtual environment where effectively you're playing kind of arcade games. Everyone calls them video games. I call them therapeutic exercises, but really they're just games. And so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. But what's really interesting is that that system, the Motus foot, can operate in multiple domains. It can help someone early on, especially if they have trouble initiating or completing range of motion activities. But then we can actually shift the function of the muscle, the assistance, to actually operate in a resistance mode. And this is where we actually get the ability to help not only with preventing drop foot, because you have to be able to move your foot into dorsiflexion, but by nature of providing resistance, we can actually work on push off, which is very, very important for forward propulsion in walking. Everyone probably thinks, well, maybe not everyone, I don't want to assume, but many people think that your quads, your big thigh muscles, and maybe your glutes do a whole lot of work for walking. And they do help you stay upright. But one of the most fundamental elements of being able to walk forward is actually coming from your muscles in your ankle called your triceps surae. And those muscles provide almost all of that forward propulsion and what things are really important for walking speed. And so it does work on all of those elements. It just operates in different modalities. It can kind of shift its operation based upon what you need. So that's a little bit of kind of the high level of the system itself. I'll just pause there for a second and see if you have any questions about that, though.
No.
Hey, if you're finding this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe to help other brain injury survivors learn how Motus Nova is changing neuro-rehab.
No.
Okay. Any other questions in general about the systems I can help answer?
Let's see. I had a bunch of questions and I just forgot about them.
Sure, that's quite all right. Well, Gabby, I think one thing I want to mention to you is that this is not the only time that you can talk with me, right? Everyone's always welcome to your Power Hour. And so if you are interested in asking questions again when you remember them, don't hesitate to reach out to us, right? We're a resource to help you make an informed decision about your own healthcare. And so if we can be helpful, then that's great. But if we can also be helpful in identifying other alternatives for you, that's great too. But for us, we really want to try to help individuals get their maximum medical recovery.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good. I think what I'll do is I'll just go quickly over. Actually, before we end, actually, Gabby, I'm interested in understanding what type of things you've done in the past for your rehab.
Okay. So about 8 years ago, I sustained a traumatic brain injury. And because of my traumatic brain injury, I sustained 2 strokes when I was
Okay.
15.
Okay.
And so I had to see a flurry of doctors, a neurologist, a cardiologist, every kind of doctor under the sun. But they actually were more concerned about, me moving instead of having me understand my stroke. So I, you know, I'm moving a lot better now, but I barely understand anything about my stroke or, my brain because, as I said, I sustained a brain injury. My left side was completely, you know, it was completely shattered. So I don't really, yeah, sorry, I'm nervous.
No, Gabby, don't worry. This is just you and me right now, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, Gabby, if it helps you at all, I'm also a TBI survivor. I had a traumatic brain injury in 2012. And so that's actually what sort of redirected my life to go into rehab. So I was able to, thankfully was able to make a reasonable recovery. I still deal with balance and vestibular impairments and challenged by visual and I still work on my language, try to be a better communicator. I still have some some motor impairments with speech, but I very much resonate with your experience. And so don't worry, this is a judgment-free zone, and we're just here to help as best we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So a little bit about my traumatic brain injury. I was hit by a subway train, and I basically, the left side of my head was completely crushed in, and it wasn't pretty.
Mhm.
So about half my brain, no, I think like 3/4 of my brain was affected from my left side. So it affected my motor skills, my speech, my personality, basically everything. So I had to relearn everything all over again.
Yeah.
And with that, having to relearn everything, plus having to relearn how to walk, how to write, how to, do math, how to spell, how to do everything. It was a little jarring for me.
Mhm. especially at that time when you're already kind of trying to figure out who you are, right?
Yeah.
Because 15
Yeah.
is a challenging time in all of our lives, and so a TBI on top of that can only make things more challenging. So that's it's a big journey, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I actually walk pitch forward,
Okay.
um, and I walked pitch forward a lot more before, but now I've kind of straightened myself out. But I still do walk a little bit pitched forward, and because of that, I tend to trip a lot more.
Mm, okay. Yeah. Last thing I want to do is have some falls. Falls can
Yeah.
be no fun. So okay. So yeah, I mean that seems like it's we want to work on improving more natural gait where you're able to have confidence in where your limbs are in space, right? Maybe one of the reasons why um, I became very visually dependent after I had my injury. And so I was not good in low light conditions. I was relying on my vision to know where my body was in space in my head. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think maybe that's what's going on is when you lose some of that integration of where your body is in space and you become very visually dependent. And the way you do that when you're walking is you look down because you have to know where your feet are in space.
Yeah.
And that can be dangerous because what happens when you don't do that, you can trip and sort of things. So
Yeah.
um, being able to generate, I guess, do some rehab to try to get better information from your body, to do some more sensory motor training could be very helpful for you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you have questions or would like to speak with me about how you can make functional gains from home, call or text me at 404-939-3476 or visit motusnova.com/contact.